how do you build a safety net for the poor without a government? I mean, no social security, no formal welfare programs. It sounds kind of impossible, right? But believe it or not, an ancient society figured it out. Today, we're going to dive into the truly remarkable social justice system of ancient Israel.
Okay, so picture this. Your entire survival, everything, depends on the land you farm. Now, what happens if you don't have any land? For a lot of people back then, this was their reality. And that was the core problem that ancient Israel's entire social system was built to solve.
So where do you even start with a problem that big? Well, the system began by identifying exactly who was the most at risk. The ancient texts point to 3 specific groups, and they actually came up with a single memorable acronym for them: WORA.
So, who were the WORA? It stands for widows, orphans, and more specifically, the fatherless, and resident aliens. So, what's the one thing they all had in common? In a society built entirely around farming, they were the ones without land. They had no family plot to grow food and support themselves.
I mean, think about what that really meant. Lacking land wasn't just an economic issue. It meant you were completely cut off from the main support system of the entire community. You were basically a social outlier, floating on your own, and you were in desperate need of a safety net.
All right, so we've got the problem, and we know who's in trouble. How did the system actually respond? Well, their laws revealed not just some vague, nice ideals, but 4 specific, really practical programs designed to weave this safety net and pull the Wura back into the community.
So here's what they came up with. It was a 4-part system. First, there was something called levirate marriage. Second was gleaning from the fields. Third, a third-year tithe for emergencies. And finally, Sabbath year garnering. Each one of these was like a different layer in the safety net, designed to catch people in different situations. Okay, let's break these down. The first one, levirate marriage, was pretty unique. It was only for childless widows who were still young enough to have kids. The whole point was for a male relative of her dead husband to marry her and produce an heir, who would then be responsible for taking care of her in her old age. But that one was pretty specific. The other 3 provisions, those were for everyone in the WRA category.
Now, the main provision was something called gleaning, and this is just brilliant. It really shows you the genius of the system. Landowners had very specific rules to follow, like don't harvest the crops at the very edge of your fields. If you drop a bundle of grain, just leave it there. Don't go back a second time to get every last grape or olive. You see, this wasn't random charity. It was a systematic way to create opportunity for the poor all season long.
And get this idea was so important that they actually put a number on it later. A Jewish commentary called the Mishnah suggested that at a bare minimum, 1/60th of the total harvest should be left for the gleaners. Of course, it was also understood that a farmer's own generosity could and should play a big part too.
Next up, you have the third-year tithe. Every third year, a portion of the tithe, that's 1/10 of their harvest, wasn't sent off to some central place. Instead, it was stored right there in the local towns. It basically worked like a local food bank or a welfare pantry, an emergency stash for the Wara to get them through a short-term crisis.
Okay, this last one might just be the most radical of them all. Sabbath year garnering. Every 7 years, all organized farming just stopped. For a whole year, the land got to rest, and during that year, landowners and the Wara were on totally equal footing. Anyone could go into any field and gather the crops that grew on their own. It was this incredible equalizer.
So that's the what of the system. We've got these 4 provisions. But to really get it, we have to look at the why. What were the core principles underneath it all that made this whole safety net actually work?
It all kind of starts with a simple number, 1/10, the tithe. This was the foundational expectation that every farmer, every producer would set aside a portion of their income, not for themselves, but for God and for the community.
And this created what the source material calls an intentional margin. I love that phrase. The idea is that you intentionally live on less than you make. You plan for a surplus not just to save for yourself, but specifically so you have enough to give away. It's a proactive generosity that's baked right into the economic system.
You see, this whole system defines social justice as a balance, a two-way street. On the one hand, the community had to ask itself, are we providing a fair share of benefits? But on the other hand, the individual was expected to ask, am I pulling my fair load? Responsibility went both ways.
Okay, so if we boil all this down, we're left with 4 really key takeaways. First, most of the help, like gleaning, required the person receiving it to actually work for it. Second, For true emergencies, help was available with no strings attached through that tithe pantry. Third, the whole thing only functioned because the entire community bought into that idea of an intentional margin. And finally, justice was local. This was literally neighbors helping neighbors they actually knew.
So when you look at all of this together, it's pretty easy to see it as this amazing ancient blueprint for a just society. But the big question is, how much of this could actually apply today?
Now we have to be realistic here. We have to acknowledge the context. This system was built for a very, very different world. A small, farming-based society where pretty much everyone shared the same religion and was probably related in some way. That is a world away from our sprawling, diverse, urban societies today.
But even with all those differences, those core principles, things like personal responsibility, community provision, that intentional margin, and local care, they still hit home, don't they? So the question this leaves for us to think about is, what can this ancient blueprint teach us as we try to build a more just and balanced society today?